My husband refused to believe I was sick until it was too late. It all started about a year ago when I first began to notice small changes in my body. At first, it was just fatigue that I attributed to stress at work. I was working long hours, trying to balance my career with being a good wife to my husband, David. We had been married for 5 years, and while our relationship wasn't perfect, I believed we were happy. But as time went on, the fatigue became more severe. I started to experience strange aches and pains that didn't seem to have a clear cause. I mentioned them to David, but he brushed it off, telling me that I was just overworked and needed to relax. I wanted to believe him, so I pushed my concerns to the back of my mind and tried to carry on as usual. However, the symptoms only worsened. I began to lose weight rapidly without trying, and my energy levels plummeted. I knew deep down that something was wrong, but every time I brought it up to David, he dismissed it. "You're fine, Emma," he would say. "You're just stressing yourself out. Stop worrying so much." His refusal to acknowledge my concerns started to create a rift between us. I felt alone in my struggle, unable to turn to the one person who was supposed to support me through anything. I started seeing doctors on my own, going through a battery of tests to try and find out what was wrong. Each time I came home with a new appointment or a new test result, David would roll his eyes and tell me I was being dramatic. The final blow came when I was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disease. The doctor explained that it was serious, but with proper treatment, I could manage it. I was devastated, but at the same time, I was relieved to finally have an answer. I thought David would finally take my concerns seriously now that I had a diagnosis. But when I told him, his reaction was the opposite of what I expected. Autoimmune disease? That sounds like something they tell hypochondriacs when they can't find anything new. He scoffed. "You're not sick, Emma. You're just convincing yourself you are." I was crushed. How could he not see how much pain I was in, both physically and emotionally? I begged him to come with me to my next doctor's appointment, hoping that hearing the truth from a medical professional would make him realize how serious this was. He reluctantly agreed, but during the appointment, he sat with his arms crossed, a skeptical look on his face the entire time. Afterward, he told me that he thought the doctor was just trying to scare me into taking unnecessary medication. He refused to help me with my treatment, saying that he didn't want to enable my delusions. I was on my own. As the months went by, my condition deteriorated. I was in and out of the hospital, struggling to manage my symptoms on my own. My friends and family rallied around me, offering their support, but David remained distant. He would hardly look at me, let alone talk to me about what I was going through. I felt like I was living with a stranger. Then one day, I collapsed at home. I was rushed to the hospital where they told me that my disease had progressed to a critical stage. The doctors did everything they could, but it was too late. My body had been too weakened by months of untreated illness. David finally realized the gravity of the situation when the doctors told him that my chances of survival were slim. He was there by my bedside, holding my hand and begging me to wake up, to fight harder. But I was too tired. The fight had been taken out of me long before that moment. I wish I could say that I survived, that David and I had a heart-to-heart and our relationship was stronger for it, but that's not how the story ends. I passed away a few days later, surrounded by my friends and family. David was there too, crying harder than I had ever seen him cry before. He refused to leave my side, telling me over and over again how sorry he was, how wrong he had been, but it was too late for apologies. The damage was done and there was no undoing it. In the end, David learned a painful lesson about the importance of listening, of believing the people you love when they tell you something is wrong. But by the time he learned it, I was already gone. This story is meant to highlight the emotional turmoil of not being believed by the one person who should have been there, and the tragic consequences that can follow when someone refuses to acknowledge the truth until it's too late.